My name is Mordecai Mlisa, and I thank you so much for keeping your eyes on NBS. This wonderful morning, we are going to be discussing social and economic rights, and there is a couple of people in Uganda that are following that, making sure that, we do not lose our step on these very, very important aspects of life, to mention but a few. And in studio with me, it is Joseph Byomuhangyi, Program Officer, Business and Human Rights from ISA. Of course, I will have to start with you. Good morning.
Good morning, Mordecai.
One would want to understand when I say ISA, someone doesn't know. Is it an acronym of something?
Yes, it is. ISA is an acronym for the Initiative for Social and Economic Rights, Uganda. We are an independent, not-for-profit, indigenous human rights organization that focuses on the realization of economic and social rights in Uganda. We have 5 programs that we are working with. That is the right to education, the right to health, business and human rights, social accountability and citizen participation, and economic inclusion and fiscal policy. Those are the programs, the thematic programs within which ISA monitors the realization of economic, social rights in Uganda.
You said one of the rare statements that I usually hear could be business and human rights. Could you elaborate more about what business and human rights is?
Thank you, Mordecai. Business and human rights is a component of human rights law. Business activities impact the human rights of people globally and also here in Uganda. For example, a company is going to establish its processing plant in, let's say, what's your village?
Bushenyi.
In Bushenyi. They'll need to get land, and that process in itself affects the people in Bushenyi. They have to give way for the company to establish its processing plant there. So the impact of business activity on the realization of human rights is what now interests us in the topic of business and human rights.
Well, we just cannot have a conversation that will probably go beyond minutes without having a sense of what is happening in the country and the entire world, the pandemic. How has it impacted business and human rights in Uganda?
Indeed, it goes without saying that the pandemic is not only a public health threat, but has also affected the social and economic well-being of Ugandans. With the presidential and Ministry of Health directives, we saw the lockdown as a major measure to prevent the spread of COVID-19. So with that lockdown came the slowing of business activities, and this has impacted the livelihood of Ugandans that derive sustenance from these business activities. Maybe to take us back, businesses positively and negatively impact human rights. So positively, they provide, for example, employment to us. You're employed by Next Media Services. It's a business to someone, but it enables you to meet your basic needs. You're able to earn a living and be able to purchase food.
Accomplish dreams.
Yes, accomplish dreams by the paycheck you get at the end of the month. So if something now affects the business operations of Next Media, it's in effect going to affect your livelihood because you can no longer earn
Absolutely.
every month. So you find that all the dependents that you have, the people you buy for food, the people you're buying for medication, are all going to be affected in the long run. So that's why we really wanted to have this discussion on exactly the effect of the pandemic on business activities, and in particular focusing on the livelihoods of the people that derive sustenance from business activities.
When you talk about your decision to have this discussion, of course, someone that is watching could think that, this is a discussion that I'm having, but in sense, you mean the eDialogue that is coming, that is Sunday. And according to what I wrote down, eDialogue on promoting responsible business for economic recovery. Could you tell us about this eDialogue?
Thank you very much. The eDialogue is indeed on the promotion of responsible business for economic recovery. We have been seeing reports from media houses like yourselves stating that government is coming up with an economic stimulus package. We have seen efforts of government trying to deal with the impacts of the pandemic to ensure that we do not fall as a country into an economic recession. But now the purpose of the eDialogue is to also highlight that the responsibility of the stakeholders, including business players, in promoting human rights is adhered to, because when business people I want to use an example of corporate social responsibility. It's a voluntary measure. Business people go out there and donate. We had the COVID-19 National Task Force at its height in April. Every company wanted to be read at the presidential address, for example, as having donated 500 million, 1 billion, 2 vehicles we have donated, these sacks of food. Yes, it was a voluntary measure by these companies to donate to the National COVID-19 Task Force. But then the same media houses would report to us that those very companies are actually subjecting their employees to layoffs, to salary cuts, and sometimes not even paying them at all. The wrongful dismissals and lawful terminations, all that was being done by these companies that quickly rushed to donate to the COVID-19 task force, but then are now violating the rights of their employees. So we thought that we should use this eDialogue to emphasize the need for businesses to respect human rights in this time of the pandemic. Even when you want to benefit from the economic stimulus package, it should be that you should adhere to the human rights standard. In implementing, in benefiting, government should set out rules and say for companies to benefit from the economic stimulus package, for example, they should be able to adhere to the human rights standard. Though I should not be quoted out of context. Donation in itself is not bad, but you should not rush to donate and abandon your employees. They should be the first beneficiaries of your corporate social responsibility action.
And indeed, it was very heartbreaking, even still does. I had a conversation with a couple of people that were laid off as a result of the pandemic, and they can tell you about how they are moving on with life. It is a sad story. When you talk about the discussion that you're going to be having, of course, one would be interested to know who is going to speak to me. Who is going to carry my frustration, my disappointment? Who are the key speakers that you have on Sunday?
Thank you very much. Maybe to place it into context, when we talk about business and human rights, we are looking at the three pillars, the three-pillar framework that the United Nations adopted in 2011. So we have the state duty to protect human rights. You know that it's a fundamental obligation of the government to protect human rights. So we will be having the Commissioner, Alex Asimwe, from the Directorate of Labour, Productivity and Industry Relations from the Ministry of Gender to come and share with us the interventions the government of Uganda has undertaken ever since March when COVID-19 hit our country. We have seen reports of people being laid off. Do they have the statistics? How many have been affected? What are they doing to ensure that they do not fall through? We will be having Commissioner Bernard Mujuni from the Directorate of Social Protection in the Department of Equity and Rights at the Ministry of Gender. He will come to share with us what special packages has government put in place for those particular individuals that have been affected with the pandemic effects. Has it been successful to have a social protection committee as part of the COVID-19 task force? Because issues of our livelihood also need to be at the center point in dealing with this pandemic. And indeed, we will find out from the Commissioner, Bernard Mujuni, how far they have gone in developing the National Action Plan on Business and Human Rights. Maybe to enlighten our viewers, the legal and policy framework is essential in protecting our rights, especially in the face of business activities. So here we are, we have a pandemic, and then businesses are saying we can no longer generate income, therefore we need to subject people to salary cuts, we need to terminate some of them. We're no longer going concern, the cost of production is so high. So we need to find out how far has the Ministry of Gender gone in developing a national action plan on business and human rights. That document is a policy document on the part of government that makes it a mandatory requirement for businesses to respect human rights in their chain of production. You see, before you know it, we'll be seeing reports of substandard goods because a certain businessman is looking at the cost of production that has increased because of the pandemic, and they want to sacrifice human rights at the altar of profit. So we need to have adequate legal and policy framework to deal with the issues of business and human rights. And we'll listen from the Commissioner to share with us that extent. We will have Ms. Salima Namsobia, the Executive Director of the Initiative for Social and Economic Rights, ISA, who will share with us to what extent the state has gone in fulfilling its fundamental obligation to protect us Ugandans from violations of human rights, especially in a business setting. Further, we will have a discussion on the need for businesses to respect human rights. Now, usually people look at corporate social responsibility. And like I said, it's a voluntary measure for businesses to give back to a community. But what we want is corporate accountability. When a business is making decisions, when you sit in your boardroom as a businessman and you're making decisions, you need to have human rights at the center of the decision-making process. So we will have the Chief Executive Officer for the Uganda Women Entrepreneurs Association Limited, that is Ms. Connie Kechimbo, to share with us the perspective. How are the women entrepreneurs in this country dealing with the pandemic? Are they respecting human rights in the decisions they are making in their businesses? She will be here with us on Sunday to share that perspective. We will also have Mr. Ramadan Gobi. He is an economist and a lecturer at Makerere University Business School. He will be sharing with us, is it really the case that when your economics are hit, then human rights should be sacrificed? What are those innovative ways businesses can adopt in continuing to run as a going concern, but also respecting human rights? He'll be here with us.
Well, that sounds extremely wonderful. What are your expectations, or what should the audience expect from you?
Well, the audience should tune in such that they are able to raise their issues. I know you must be having a friend, for example, who has been laid off due to COVID-19.
A couple of them.
It should be in their best interest to tune into the eDialogue on Sunday and hear from the Commissioner Labour, who in effect supervises the district labor officers. They should be able to learn about the remedies, the remedy platforms that are existing. So what should you do in the event that your employer just tells you, you know what, we don't have money anymore, we are not able to keep you here? Is it really the due process of termination? Businesses need to know that they need to have a meaningful consultation. Are they involving the trade unions, for example, for people that belong in trade unions as they're making these decisions? Are they dealing with the employees before you subject them to layoffs and salary cuts? It's essential that you have a meeting and have dialogue with them to discuss how best can we deal with this issue. Yes, the pandemic hit all of us, but it will go. You need to adhere to the human rights in your decision making. We will also have Miss Ruth Sechindi. She is the Director of Monitoring and Inspection at the Uganda Human Rights Commission. Now, Ugandans need to know that the Uganda Human Rights Commission is the national human rights institution. It is the go-to place on if you are affected in any way, if your rights are violated, they are infringed, they are abused. The Uganda Human Rights Commission is the go-to place. Without the legalese, you may say it's expensive to access court, you may say, I do not know how to go about the court processes, but the Uganda Human Rights Commission is a quasi-judicial body that handles human rights issues, whereby you can even just write a letter, a basic letter, with your issues, and you go to any of their regional offices and raise your complaint. So people should not be stranded. Very many things have happened to Ugandans as a result of this pandemic, affecting businesses where they were employed, for example, or the goods that they are being sold to, or any service that is affected because someone is trying to cut on the cost of production. They should be able to know from the Human Rights Commission the available opportunities for them to access a remedy. That is something that is essential. We will also be having Mr. Arnold Kwesiga. He is the coordinator of the Uganda Consortium on Corporate Accountability. Now, the Uganda Consortium on Corporate Accountability is a 21-member civil society and community-based organizations across the country. We have members from West Nile, they have members from Karamoja, from the Teso sub-region, in Greater Masaka. All of them are in the Uganda Consortium on Corporate Accountability. So Mr. Kwesiga will be sharing with us the reports from his membership. What are they seeing on ground? How are the corporate actors in their spaces operating? Are they respecting human rights? Is it something they know about? All that will be on Sunday. Viewers should be able to tune in and enjoy the discussion. We will also have the district chairperson of Wakiso, Mr. Matia Rangabwanika. We have seen him as an activist for the environment. His district has been greatly affected by business activities that degrade the environment. So he will be sharing with us how is he coping with these situations. And also to note, Wakiso district is the first district that has a human rights committee. So we'd be glad to hear from him the assessment of the performance of the Human Rights Committee. Has it improved the situation in Wakiso district when it comes to respect of human rights from all the players, including businesses?
Thank you. Well, I'm giving you a minute to give your concluding remark. You will look into that camera and, of course, you give your concluding remark.
Thank you so much, Mordecai. My time has been fast spent, but the pandemic will eventually pass, but human rights are our entitlements as human beings. I encourage viewers, you should tell a friend who has faced these challenges of layoffs, temporary or unpaid leave, anything that relates to their livelihood, that stems from business activities, telling them we can no longer have you on board because of the pandemic. They should be able to tune in and hear from the panelists we have. We will have government panelists that will be sharing with us to what extent the government of Uganda is protecting our human rights in the face of business activities. We will have the academia. They will share with us the innovative ways on how to get out of this situation. We will have the business people from the Uganda Women Entrepreneurs Association to share with us what are those practices they are having. Do they have lessons for their colleagues in business to learn? Do they have challenges and they want to improve in dealing with this issue? All that will be on Sunday. We will have Ms. Ruth Sechindi. She is the Uganda Human Rights Commission Director for Monitoring and Inspection. She will tell us if she has received any reports, or if people do not know about the reporting procedure, they'll be able to know on Sunday. I encourage all of us to tune in and participate in this dialogue, because for the economy to recover, our livelihood as Ugandans needs to be at the center of this discussion.
Sunday, what time?
The dialogue will be on NBS. It will be telecast live from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. on Sunday, 2nd August.
Thank you so much, Joseph Byomuhangyi, Program Officer, Business and Human Rights from ISA. It is always a pleasure having you, and thank you so much for sharing with us. Well, like you said, the pandemic has caused a lot of things, and we've had, like we've talked about layoffs, salary cuts, but I will talk to those ones that have been laid off. Please pick yourself up, wipe your tears off, and you can start over again. We look forward to having you on Sunday, that is from 2 to 5 p.m. Thank you so much for watching. The first breakfast meeting ends now, and we are coming back shortly.